This
unlike
says
last
we're
week.
going live. Unlike last week. Hey, it is 9:00, almost on the dot this week, kids. And it is Tuesday night, so that means you are in for a treat. It is another Get Off My Lawn podcast. So welcome everybody for another one of these. We appreciate everybody understanding last week that we did not have a live stream podcast just because again, Mrs. Sandhills lost her grandmother, and Tuesday was the day of the funeral. We actually we were home in time to do a podcast, but neither one of us had the energy, physically or emotionally, to get together. So we just appreciate everybody being cool with it and letting us have a week off. So we are back. We missed everybody, and we are ready to get rocking and rolling. So we're gonna let everybody say hello here on the panel. And we're going to lead off with the West Coast just because I know Calaveras 32 Special doesn't have a lot of time before supper's ready. So, Tactical Pickle, thanks for joining us for a few minutes.
Hey, I appreciate the invite, Sandhills. Thank you.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure to have you hang out.
Saw the topics, and this should be an interesting show. I'll have to listen to the replay later.
Heck yeah, absolutely. And for those of you who aren't aware, you can always use the same link that got you here tonight to catch this on the replay. So the best part about that is you can listen to it again if you want to, but you can share this link, and it's always going to be good. So if somebody missed it tonight and you think they would like to hear it, go ahead and share the link with them, and they can always get back here to it. So it's not just live; it's also up there on the interwebs on the YouTube channel forever, or at least until YouTube gets tired of us talking about freedom and kicks us out. So if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please do so. And then subscribing is great, but then you've got to click that little bell icon that shows up once you subscribe and switch over the notifications to let you know when we go live or when a new video comes up. So we appreciate everybody for doing that. All right, let's say hi to a few other people here. We've got Pat Hirsch joining us for is this the second or third week now? Third week, I think, that you've been here, isn't it?
Yeah, this is my third week. Thanks again for having me on.
Heck yeah, you're going to turn into a regular here. It's always good to have fellow Nebraskans. We've also got a brand new face and voice and name. So coming to us from out in the western part of the state, out in that Ogallala country, we've got Zach joining us tonight.
How's it going, guys?
Thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
Hey, no problem.
What are you doing? Clearing out a few cases while you're hanging out with us?
Might as well.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Put your hands to use while you're doing the work or while you're doing the talking. That works out. All right. We've got Duke Liberty with us as well, representing the state of Michigan over there.
Ooh, it's been a hard week. We had Sanders and Biden both in Flint. It's been dark, but hey, man, thanks for the invite. I'm happy to be here.
But you survived, right? You're okay now?
We're surviving, baby. No coronas here.
All right. Good to hear it. All righty. Also holding it down in the central part of Nebraska, at least for now, we've got the king of the Travi himself, Travis P11. What in the world is going on?
Hey, not much. Hey, Zach, if you need help, I can be there in about 90 minutes. Is that cool? Yeah, I'll gain an hour of daylight too. So yeah.
I'll take all the help I can
there
get.
You go, man. All right, let me get my reloading stuff's all boxed up. I'll bring it over. So, but anyway, yeah, this is Travis P11. Check out my channel on YouTube, and we got a little podcast we do on Monday nights called Caliber Corner. It's a lot of fun. 6 o'clock Central Time, 7 o'clock East Coast time. Check it out. We talk guns, ammo, prepping, whatever works for us. So, hey, thanks for the invite, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being here. All right, and then maybe he's got the audio figured out. He was here, and then he left, and now he's back. Armament and Axes. What's up?
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I was using the Brave browser, and since Google and YouTube did something different, because Brave browser like blocks, ads and whatever. Man, since they changed their policy, it's been like, error. And then you just wait a minute because it's blocking the ads. You just wait and then your videos. But anyway, I was using Brave. I couldn't get in and I went, okay, I'll go to Chrome. Got it working. All good. So thanks
That's
for the
what
invite.
I use Chrome because it seems to work all the time.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. Like I said, you invite me all the time. Sometimes I make it, sometimes I don't. But hey, I'm here now. So
heck yeah. Well, thanks for joining us. All right. And who do we have out in the chat? Looks like it's already getting lively out there. So Kingpin was out there and maybe he left or maybe he's back. Let's see. Olivia's out there. Jay Brown, Double A doing double duty. Gun Loving Grandpa's out there. Morlock is out there. How you doing? I don't think I've seen you in here before, Morlock, so welcome. 10X Shooters is out there. Blitz is out there. G23, I don't recognize that name either, so welcome to you. SS Pawn, Stan is in the house. SS Pawn, Lexington, Nebraska, for all your firearm needs and anything else that you can do in a pawn shop. Go check that out. And he's not even a channel sponsor, although I'm not saying no, Stan, if you ever want. No, I'm kidding. Not really. Who else do we have? New York Outcast is in the house. Ghost Tactical is out there. George Washington's here. Dude, welcome again, General. Alrighty, and I know that there will be more coming through as the night goes on. As always, if you are watching this live on YouTube and you are not commenting, then we don't know you're here, and we would really like to say hello to you and thank you for joining us. So, I see Schofield 63 out there. I missed that name. A lot of great people in here that I'm not used to seeing. Other Travis is here. Sean's here. They just keep coming in. Drop those comments out there so we can say hi to you and we know that you're around. Patriot, I can see you out there now. Alrighty. So, and again, you know what? If you're watching this on replay, you can still leave comments because we still want to know what you think. So you can still go down below and drop comments even after this is live down in the regular comments under the video. We just want to know that you're around. Levi's in the house. Carvings by Levi's out there too. So if I missed you, I'm sorry. It means you're not talking enough and I need to see your name showing up more. So keep it going out there. All right. I don't think I have anything else to talk about as far as housekeeping. As always, if you want to help us out, we never ask you for money, but we do need a little extra income every now and then to pay for things like nicer cameras and microphones and stuff like that. So if anybody wants to help us out, patreon.com/sandhillsshooter, or we've got a Spreadshirt page up as well, which I should probably figure out what the web address is to that, but you can go to Spreadshirt and search Sandhills Shooter and come up with some cool stuff out there too. So go check all the fun stuff out, and if you need stickers or if you need refrigerator magnets, things like that, just send me an email, sandhillsshooter@gmail.com, or hit me on Facebook, and we can get you hooked up with all that good stuff. So Edward says hi. He's down below off camera. You can't see him. The big white fluffy cat. All righty.
I was just going to ask, what exactly is Spreadshirt? What is that?
That is, you can get T-shirts and hoodies and hats and mugs and mouse pads and all kinds of stuff that have the logo on it.
It's a merch site.
It's a merch site where I pretty much just upload my logo and then stick it on stuff, and they just sell it.
Everything, man. Baby onesies, aprons.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
But bandanas for the dog. Literally,
do
everything.
Do they
Tote
sell
bag.
baby onesies in Travis P size?
Not yet, but I think that's a good idea. That's a little weird.
Wow, I just had a visual image that I'm probably going to have to take a power drill to bore out of my head now.
Kind of takes you
Thanks
back
for
to
that.
Christmas Story at the pink rabbit suit. You know?
Yeah, right.
Little
Going
target
off
on
the
your head,
rails
you know?
on a crazy train here, kids.
Walleye season's coming up. I may need a new Speedo that says Sandhills Shooter.
I think that's not on the Spreadshirt site, but it should be.
There
You know, we actually have a trip coming up here later on this year, a trip to Jamaica planned, and the friends that are going with us, we've had the discussion. Have you guys seen that one-piece sling Speedo thing that Borat wears? There's some talk. You may come up with those. I guarantee if we do, there's not going to be any photographic proof. I do not need that out on the interwebs.
Banana hammock.
Yeah, but
Says,
it goes up and
Sandhills
over your
on one
shoulder.
side, shooter on the other.
Yeah, there's no place to write Sandhills shooter on that thing.
on the
Those
straps. On the straps.
no, they're skinny. They're like that
That's
wide.
okay to be embroidered in there.
I
And
don't
you
know.
put-
I
you
don't
put
think
PT
that
across the back. Oh,
that's probably a
Okay,
worse
it's
better
all my
limit for
fault.
everybody than the one I just had earlier. So,
It's
all
all my
right.
fault. I got the crazy talk started.
All right.
so-
Hey, Zach, I'm going to go ahead and mute you over there again so you can go ahead and make all the noise you want. It's all good. There we are. Okay. So, all right. Here, a day or two ago, I was listening to a different podcast, and one of the things that came up was how nobody ever talks about de-escalating a situation. And that's hey, we've got defense dad out there. I didn't see you jump in the room, dude. Welcome.
Hey, can you hear me this time?
I can totally hear you this time.
All right.
Can everybody else hear him?
I can hear him.
loud and clear, brother.
My wife's over here going, she's plugged into the exact same mic or headphone feed that I am. We have a splitter. So I know you can hear him, honey, because you can hear everything I can hear.
Yep, he's good to go.
I love my wife. All righty. But one of the things that nobody ever talks about is how to de-escalate situations. And I think that maybe some more talk should be had about this, because there are very, very few times where a firearm should ever actually have to be pulled, right? Now, that's why we have it. We have it because if there's no other option, then it's the tool that we use to get us out of a jam or prevent ourselves from getting into a jam, right? That's the whole point of concealed carry and exercising our freedoms to do so in our Second Amendment rights. But if we can avoid having to use that tool, then I think that everybody who legally concealed carries would rather avoid having to use it. And if you would rather pull your gun out and shoot at somebody than get out of that situation, then honestly, I'm here to go on record and say there's something wrong with you. Nobody wants to shoot somebody that is in their right mind. If you're angry or something like that, again, that's not your right mind. So, but the issue remains that some people just don't know how to get out of that situation. They never can walk away from a fight. They can't back down from anything, or they see it as not being a man if you run away from a fight. So we have that part of our culture and that part of our machismo happening on one hand, but on the other hand, there are a lot of situations where it is better to try and talk your way or just turn around and walk away, or any of those options. If the situation warrants it, literally turn around and run, than it is to get into a shooting battle, right? So, and some of us live in a state that requires us to do so in certain situations. Now, I know there are states out there with more freedoms than Nebraska, believe it or not. Believe it or not, there are a lot of states with more freedoms than Nebraska if you look all the way across the board. We do not have a castle doctrine as such in Nebraska. If you are a licensed concealed carrier, you do not have a duty to retreat in your own home, and you do not have a duty to retreat in your workplace. As far as I know, I'm not a lawyer. Nobody in the panel is a lawyer, and please do not use this podcast as legal advice. That's not what we're doing. But to the best of my knowledge, you don't have to run away in your own house or in your workplace, but anywhere else out in public. If you can run away, you are legally obligated to do so in Nebraska. So if you are ever in a courtroom and you're on the witness stand and you are the defendant in a situation like this, then if you had an option to extricate yourself from said situation and you did not take that option, then it's not going to be a good day in court for you. So if you don't live in a state like this, then good on you. If you do live in a state like this, then you understand the frustration that I have, and Travis and I have discussed that frustration before in here and in other chat rooms. But the first thing I want to talk about is just to get a kind of a general idea of how everybody feels. I mean, it kind of, and everybody in the panel is a man right now. It kind of goes against everything that we learn as men, right? To run away from a fight or walk away from a fight. That is not the tough guy thing to do. So first and foremost, I want everybody's opinion on the very notion of running from a fight, or backing down or whatever it is. Not even with the carry mindset, or in a concealed carry situation, but just in general. Am I the only one? Does anybody else kind of feel like it goes against the grain to do that, just in general and on principle?
I'll chime in first.
Sure.
I'll tell you this. Okay, when I was younger, I took martial arts. Okay, you learn that, and when you're a kid, and you think you're all Billy badass, which I'm not. I'll tell you that. Sorry about that, but yeah, I'm not a bad guy. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But there was a phrase that we learned. It's better to run than to fight. It's better to fight than to die. It's better to hurt than to maim, and it's better to maim than to kill, because all life is precious and can never be returned. I had to memorize that. So when I took my concealed carry class, our instructor, oh gosh, well, I've been carrying for about 11 years now. So he was in his 60s at that time. So I don't even know if the guy's still alive. But the one thing that he did teach in our class was how to de-escalate, which means, something, is it really worth getting in a gunfight over? And this is, I'm getting back to my point of view when I did take that class. Back then, like you were saying, you're a man, you're not going to back down. You start carrying a gun, you got to think a little different, because you have the means to do a lot of harm in a very quick manner. You see where I'm coming from? So to me, when I started carrying, and I've only been in one situation where I lifted my shirt and put my hand on my gun, the guy didn't see it, and I was with a couple other friends, and the situation de-escalated. And I was happy for that, because I don't want to shoot anybody. I just, no, and it's not the legal part. It's just, there's some people that you really, you look out in the world and see a lot of bad people and think, oh, I'd like to, but in your day-to-day life situation, do you really want to deal with that? Do you want to have to deal with that? But last line of defense is, you were talking about the castle doctrine in Ohio. We don't have we have the castle doctrine, but we still don't have the stand your ground. So you do have a duty to retreat in certain places, but our castle doctrine also applies to your home, your car, or any place that you are occupying. So in other words, if you're at a friend's house and something happens to where somebody comes in and starts a problem, and you're the one there that says, get out, supposedly it covers that. I don't want to test it, but
Right.
I don't want to test any of those situations. So
Right.
to
Well,
me,
for now, though, we'll get into all that part. But for now, I just want everybody's opinion on just the general principle of walking away and turning your back on a fight. Because, like I said, it feels at first thought, at first glance, it feels like it's not the right thing to do. It just kind of, again, it goes against the grain of everything I learned about being a man. So, does anybody else feel differently? Am I the only one that's like this? What do the rest of you guys think about that?
Dude, I agree with you completely, man. With me, it was about defending yourself. You'd use your fist to, if you had to stand up to that bully, if you had to, fight your way out to protect yourself, you be a man and do the manly thing. But when you throw the gun in the mix, that totally changes every aspect of it. That's again, kind of like what ANA is saying, all that liability that comes along with it. Now, if it's a situation where you're mortally in danger, I don't see why any of us wouldn't hesitate to use a firearm if we absolutely had to. But now I think as you get a little bit older, a little bit wiser, you're a little more patient about things, and you start thinking about the what ifs, the liability aspect of it, the family aspect of it. everything that's going to happen, you know, in one split second, you have those thoughts. Do I really want to take it to this level, or should I just be the bigger man, take the higher road and walk away? So it does go against the grain of being a man to a point. But what point are you being a man if you pull a gun and shoot somebody with it versus a fist fight or a scuffle or whatever? You know, I mean, it kind of takes it to a different level that I don't think was the original intention when you're told to be a man. And there's a difference between being a man and being a patriot, defending your family from mortal danger and brushing off that person that's hassling you or whatever. You know, there's a difference between the two. So
Sure, absolutely. All right, what's everybody else think?
Yeah, I agree with Travis to a certain point. My dad always said, "You better not start a fight," but he said, "If it's gonna get started, you damn well better finish it." Apologize, didn't mean to cuss there, but
It's all right. Everybody's trying. We know.
But like Travis said, once you throw in a gun into the mix, it changes the whole dynamic. So you gotta rethink the whole situation once you bring in a gun. But yeah, it kind of goes against the grain a little bit, but at the same time, when you put a firearm into it, it just changes the whole dynamic.
Sure.
Yeah. To answer your original question, of course, that's a very hard thing to do. We don't want to walk away from a fight. You can't show your tail and walk away. So I'm going to agree with you totally. It's so hard to do as a man.
All right. Zach or Shane, do you guys have any different opinions or anything else you want to add to that before we move along?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, I grew up maybe a little differently. I didn't have a father in my life growing up. It was my grandfather was my male influence. He was a Purple Heart World War II veteran, and he taught me, you're gonna get in fights, but do the best you can to get out of them, because I don't care who you are, even if you win, it still hurts. But it's hard to walk away from that kind of stuff, but at a certain point, you got to ask yourself as you grow older, is it worth it? And like these guys said, now you're throwing a gun into it. Now is it worth going to jail over it?
Which is a very real possibility. Even if it's justified use of your firearm, you still could visit that jail cell until everything's cleared up.
Yep.
Very good point. All right, Zach, what do you think? I'm not hearing you. You're not muted.
Is he muted on his end? We can't hear you, Zach.
Yeah, it doesn't look like you're muted on this end.
Maybe
that seems to be going around. Everybody gets that bug at some point, I think.
It's that fast Nebraska internet,
That's got to be it.
Hit it with a hammer.
Something about the Pony Express and the telegraph. I don't know.
Yeah, don't get me started on internet out this way.
You might have to drop out and come back in, Zach. If it will give that a whirl and see. Just re-click the link that I sent you and see if that gets you back in here better. We'll give him a few minutes. Go ahead.
I was just going to say the one thing, we're all talking about this. Oh, he's back.
Can you hear me?
Finish. Yeah, we can hear
now
you.
We can hear you
real quick. The whole walking away from a fight. Once you start carrying a gun, you have to put your ego in check. You really have to think about your ego as, your personal thought of yourself, and you got to put that in check, because there's some situations that you might get into a fight over this or that, but something, is it really worth it? And if it escalates, how far is it worth pulling your gun? So that's just my, I don't know. I've gotten old and kind of passive at this point. I'm passive to the point where I'm not passive. You know what I mean? When the breaking point, nope, it's over. When it comes to protecting your loved ones, I don't give a shit. I don't care. If I'm going to jail, I'm going to jail if I'm protecting my loved ones.
Sure. And that's, we've had the discussion in here before about just the mindset overall when you decide that you're going to become a legal concealed carrier. And again, the mindset, we've talked about, being willing to use that gun, because if you don't think you could ever actually pull a trigger on somebody, you really have no business carrying. But we never really got into this end of it, and that's why I wanted to have this discussion tonight, because we don't really hear anybody talking about ways to not pull that trigger. So, all right, Zach, you're here now, so go ahead and give this another whirl.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
You're on.
Awesome. Hey, my opinion is, with all the gun grabbing and the threats going on right now, it's hard for me to carry mine personally. I don't want to be another one of those statistics, where the media bashes you for using your firearm if you're forced to do it. It's sad to me that we have to live in this type of world, but if it comes down to it, I would rather try to get away with talking a person out of doing something dumb, or saying, hey guys, let's not do this. I would rather de-escalate myself. That's just my own personal opinion, though. I mean, because all life is precious to me.
Sure, absolutely. Now out in the chat, New York Outcast is saying we kill him with this stuff. A man's a man with or without a gun. New York Outcast, if you want to join us, I don't think I've got your email, but if anybody, I think there's a few people here in the panel that have your email. So if anybody wants to send New York Outcast a link, go ahead and forward that. And if you want to join us, go ahead and come on in and share your opinion, because it might not be the same as the rest of us, and we welcome that in here. We want a variety of opinions, so that people have multiple viewpoints to think about when they sign off, or when we sign off after this. So, alrighty. Let me see here. All right, so I think those of us that are in the panel so far sounds like we all pretty well agree. It's not what we were taught when we learned how to be a man, but at the same time, you can retrain your brain, and I think all of us that do carry have already been through that process. If you are not a concealed carrier, or you're not a concealed carrier yet and you're thinking about it, I would venture a guess that you probably would go through the same process yourself, where like I've said before, when I first started carrying, the idea of just being able to have a gun with me everywhere I went was cool. But then after I started carrying a gun with me everywhere I went that I legally could do so, there's a lot more weight than just the physical, pound or 2 pounds or whatever that firearm weighs. There's a lot more heavy weight than that goes along with strapping on a firearm and carrying concealed, especially if you do it on a daily basis, or if you're able to. We've all kind of felt that, those of us that know what it feels like to carry concealed. So I think it's kind of a natural process for most people. But now the next thought is, we get into the nuance, I guess, or the gray areas, where some states have stand your ground. Some states don't have stand your ground, but they have castle doctrine. Some states don't have anything. So not only is there a legal aspect to it, but it's kind of like anybody that trains in martial arts. The people that train martial arts to learn how to beat people up, they're doing it for the wrong reasons. Just like people that get a concealed carry permit so that they can, be Batman or be Paul Kersey or whatever you want to label them. That's the wrong reason as well. But if you are disciplined in a martial art, then one of the first things that you're taught, the way that I understand it, again, I don't have any training, but even I know that the martial arts are taught as not something to be used to beat people up, but something to be used so that you don't get beaten up. That's why those of us that carry, that's why we carry. It's not because we want to shoot somebody. It's because we don't want anybody harming us or the people that are near us at the time. It's the same way with martial arts. You don't study taekwondo, karate, Krav Maga, whatever it is, to start a fight. But I don't remember who it was now in the panel. One of you said you were told, don't start a fight, but if you can't get out of a fight, make sure you're the one that ends it. And that's what martial arts training helps you do, right? You end the fight as quickly as possible, and you neutralize that threat or that bully or whatever it is, and that's what firearms do as well. But again, it's only in the absolute last resort when we have no other choice. That's why, is it Kevin Dixie's company is called No Other Choice, because that is when you use your firearm, when you have no other choice. If you don't have any other options, it's there. But there's almost always another option. Which is why I don't know anybody personally in my day-to-day life that has ever actually had to use their gun. I know a few people that have pulled their guns a time or two, but I've never actually spoken with anybody that got into the situation where they had to pull that trigger to defend themselves or their family. And so we know that guns save lives more often than not by never being fired. Just the fact that they're there, or just the fact that the gun is produced and not fired. We don't know how many times, because those incidents don't get reported very often because people are afraid of getting into trouble. But we do know the rough ballpark figure is anywhere between 500,000 and 2 to 2.5 million times a year. And those are, I believe, CDC numbers. Incidents where the firearm is actually used to defend a life or to thwart a possible crime. So there's got to be more than 2 million times a year, when there's 320 plus million people in a country. There's got to be more than 2 million times a year that people talk themselves out of a fight. It's got to be the rule, not the exception. Using that firearm really has got to be the exception. Just looking at the sheer numbers, I find it highly improbable that it's more often than not that people pull a gun. I find it much more likely that more often than not, people run away, talk themselves out of it, talk somebody down, whatever it is. So I don't really know a whole lot of techniques that I can say that, this is what works for me to not get into a fight. I do know this. I do know that for me personally, being willing to be wrong, even if I'm right, being willing to be wrong goes a long way. If I am in a crowded bar here in Nebraska, if you're in a bar, you can't be carrying anyway. But if I'm in a bar, somebody gets riled up, and even if I'm right, if I say, you know what, dude, I'm sorry, I completely misunderstood the situation. I tell you what are you drinking? Let me buy you a beer. Let me buy you whatever you're drinking around. Let me get your table around. If it costs me, $20-$30 to get out of a fight, I still think that's money well spent. I'll go to the bar, pay for a round, go out the door and leave. I'll just not be in that situation anymore. That is me personally. I've kind of learned sometimes that being right isn't always the right thing to be. My wife would argue with that. If you asked her, she's never seen me not try to be right. But I've never gotten
you the evil eye.
I hope she's sitting over there smiling. Her computer face is a direction that I can't see her face. I can see her computer, but her back's her side's kind of to me. So I hope she's smiling, but she's not nodding her head. She's smiling. It's all good. What do the rest of you do if you've ever been in that situation where you had to talk somebody down or talk your way out of something? What works for everybody? And we can go around the horn if we need to, but as long as we don't step on each other, we'll just let everybody sound off. So the rest of the crew here, what do you do to get yourself out of that situation?
Yeah, see, I think there's two things that are super important when it comes to this, and number one is rational detachment. You have to be able to take yourself out of that situation, not get pent up. If somebody might say something nasty to you, don't take it to heart. Be able to move on. Be able to be the bigger man. Be able to have that situation happen and occur, and you not be so wrapped up in it that just because a guy flicked you off because you were driving in your vehicle, that you've now got to chase him down. You've got to be able to detach yourself from that situation. And the second thing is mitigation. Okay, you see a guy arguing, you see a person parked in a handicap spot. Do you think you going up to them, yelling and screaming at them? This is like that Florida situation where that guy went up to a vehicle that was parked in a handicap situation or handicap spot, started yelling at the woman. The husband came out of the store, pushed him down, and the guy shot him. I mean, mitigate your situation. Going up to a woman in a vehicle isn't a very smart idea to start screaming at her. Don't put yourself in bad situations. So my two things is rational detachment and mitigation. That kind of helps you from getting in those situations.
Very good stuff. Who else has something to throw in there?
Oh, I can always throw something in there. Yeah, he's absolutely right. When I watched that video of what happened, I'm like, wrong, wrong, wrong. You did the wrong thing. You wrong, wrong. You know, and I understand somebody, arguing, oh, you're in a handicap, but you're not handicapped. Okay, whatever. Are you really willing to get into a shootout over this? What? Oh,
Yeah, and look what that guy's going. That guy is going to jail, right?
oh yeah, he's in jail now.
Okay.
I can't remember what he got sentenced to, but yeah, it's like, really?
Exactly.
It's called common sense. Okay, I said earlier, I was a martial artist, yada yada. When I was younger, I avoided fights. I got in a few, and they ended pretty quick because I just knew how to do. And I'm not Billy Bad Guy or bad, but I won't say it. But you start carrying a gun, you have to remember the lethality of it and the consequences, and it is the last resort. Be good, but carry a big stick. The only time you're going to use that big stick is when there's no other choice. Kevin Dixie quote there. You see what I mean? It's like, I don't know, man. It's for me, I've been carrying long enough, and it's like, there's been a couple times I don't go to the bars anymore. I don't want to go to the bars because idiots are at the bars, and I'll just walk away from them, and I'm not going to buy them $30 worth of drinks because I'll just walk away. But point is
right.
It's like you have to get to a mental point in your life where, yes, I have this power, but the power is within my control, and if I misuse the power, that's not good. Be good, but carry a big stick. So.
Right, exactly.
Another thing to remember here is
all right. Anybody else have anything they want to throw out there?
Yeah, I was gonna say you're
Go ahead, Travis.
You're not being a coward if you swallow your pride and walk away, knowing you got the potential to take the most lethal action if necessary. You're being, in my opinion, you're being the bigger man by walking away and avoiding a confrontation that could end up bad for you, your family. Again, unless it's a threat. Like a threat where they're imminent danger, you have absolutely no way to or no option to walk away. Or, I mean, it's the same. I agree with armament. I agree with Duke. I agree with everybody this evening. You gotta be a little more conscious about what you say and what you do. Be a little more apologetic once in a while. Be a little more courteous. Be a little more patient with people, just because of that tool that you have on you and what you can do with that tool.
Absolutely. All right, we have got New York Outcast in the room now. So New York Outcast, we're going to let you say hi and just tell us a little bit about, who you are and if you're doing anything with your channel and as far as any plugs you want to make. And then we'll just give you the floor at the same time to go ahead and chime in on anything we've talked about so far. So we will just give it to you.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
That's a bigger intro than I've ever had or used to, I guess. I'm just a guy from New York that enjoys my Second Amendment and feel everybody should take advantage of it if they could. Basically, I do have some reviews, information about like getting a firearm in New York. There's a few different things on my channel if anybody's interested. But besides that, my comment earlier, I was just stating, I think the thing that bugs me with this is everybody basically makes it seem like you just got to run away from situations. And I personally don't feel that's true. I think if all the good people run away from bad situations, a lot of innocent people are going to suffer for it. Not that you should instigate problems or go looking for issues, or somebody calls me a racial slur. It's not worth my time to end up sitting in jail because I hit the guy. Like, to me, that's not worth it. But if somebody's smacking the crap out of, a lady in a grocery store line, I'm probably going to say something. Well, I'm going to say something. So I'm not just going to say, oh, I got a gun, so hey, buddy, can you stand up for this lady? Because, I shouldn't be involved in this. That's my point of it. But definitely try to avoid, all confrontation if you can. Because whether it's lawyers, whether it's, therapy, or you end up getting sued, you're always paying for it one way or another, in my opinion.
Well, dude, I don't think any of us would hesitate to stop to help somebody that absolutely needed it. If we could assess the situation and we knew who the good guy and the bad guy was, and somebody's life is at stake, we're not going to run away from that.
Well, I was just going to say, I see somebody beating up an old woman. I'm going to do something. I mean, seriously, I don't care what that old woman did. What?
Yeah, at least let's try to figure out what's going on here to make sure somebody doesn't end up losing their life.
Right.
Yeah, there's a big difference in doing that compared to somebody pulling your gun and getting a fight.
Yeah, somebody bumping into you. What's up, B? And it's like, what? Sorry, dude. I mean to bump you. My bad. To mean to bump your beer, right? Yeah.
Yeah, or someone stole your parking spot. I mean, does it suck? Yeah.
I agree. All that smaller stuff. There's the only way I personally
pull my gun is to protect my daughter, or someone. I tell you what, my instructor for my CCW class, he said something that hit a lot of home with me during the class. It's like, if you're going to pull that gun, a good rule of thumb might be, because, and again, you're a fairly good chance, whether you're in the right or wrong, you're going to jail for a little bit at least, until you're proven innocent. Would you give that person a kidney? If so, do you want to stop and think if you're going to pull the gun? That kind of hit home with me. I don't know about anybody else.
Yeah.
That was good.
No, makes some sense. All right. Hey, we've got Ghost Tactical in the house now, who I just invited in to give his 2 cents worth. So go ahead if you want to do any channel plugs, help yourself. There may actually be a few people that haven't yet heard of you. So the last 3 people in the world are here now, maybe. And then just go ahead and chime in with anything you want to say from anything we've discussed so far tonight.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. I mean, as far as channel plugs, if you want to check me out, great. My biggest thing that I love the conversation is one of my biggest missions is concealed carry. And we all understand that I'm not saying anything that hasn't been said already, so I'm not reinventing the wheel. But, if you're going to make that conscious decision to carry a gun, and people are saying it in the panel and in the chat earlier, is you've got to put your ego aside. You have to understand that the decision to carry a gun is bigger than you. We're trying to not only help protect society, but we're also trying to put our best foot forward as what gun people are. So if you're one of those people who are going to carry a gun just because you're going to feel tough now, then we don't want you carrying a gun. We want responsible people that are going to use a gun as a last, ditch effort. And sometimes, I hate to say this, guys, but sometimes it's easier and it's probably better to get your tail whipped than it is to draw that gun.
Yeah, I can understand the concept that you're meaning there. While I've got everybody here, I want to get everyone's opinion on this idea too, because I know that a lot of the time when a state is considering adopting a stand your ground law, one of the biggest things that I hear the opponents of such a law come up with is, well, as soon as we adopt stand your ground, we're going to have a whole bunch of people that think they're Batman. And we're going to have people pulling their gun and shooting people over that, that parking space argument, or, getting bumped into, or whatever is the case. Now, we all know the opposite, but as far as just the very notion that stand your ground is going to turn into, a whole bunch of vigilantes with guns, what do you say to people like that when they're like, well, we don't want that in our state because of this? But don't all talk at once.
Hey, man, I would say look at the numbers. How many of these states have those laws, and how many incidents do you really have out of the total number of concealed carriers? How many people actually truly get themselves in trouble for unlawfully standing their ground? What are the because statistics get thrown on us gun owners all the time. Let's throw some statistics back, right? 99.99% of people over so many years don't ever pull it or use it, yet they have a stand your ground law.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to jump in and say, it's funny, everybody argues this argument of, wherever, constitute, it doesn't matter, concealed carry. Oh, it's going to be the old West and gunfire in the streets. Who was it that said that an armed society is a polite society? When you realize that, John, if I seen you tomorrow and never met you, do I know you're carrying a gun? Hell no. Do you have the right to do it? Yes, you do. Which means you could shoot me if I'm an idiot. You see what I mean? So to me, this whole, there's going to be shooting this and all concept. No, they got it totally backwards. Because when this country was founded, everybody had guns.
Sure. And I think that, and I've heard that quote a lot. We all have heard that quote a lot. I'm sure that an armed society is a polite society, and I can't tell you who was the original one to say it. But a different way that I've seen that written or heard it said is that society is safer when criminals don't know who's armed. So when it could be anybody, when it's not only the police that are allowed to have the guns, when civilians have that option, then criminals think twice before they start something, because, that little old lady on the motorized scooter, she may still be packing. She might not be an easy target, and you don't know. When concealed carry is an option, you don't know who's dangerous and who's not. So the smart move is to pass them up, right? And that is, I think, the point that all of us want to get our state to, is that, whether or not we live in it, because I know New York Outcast, obviously in New York, you don't have a free state like Nebraska, which I just complained we're not free, but it would be great if everybody, including in New York City, had the option of concealed carrying, and muggers would think twice, because that switchblade isn't going to be much in the face of even a little snub-nosed 38 that Granny's carrying in her purse. And it really is a great equalizer, right? So that's one of the things that means that the armed society is a polite society. But let's go back to, I always get off on these tangents here.
Hey,
Let's go back to
something real quick.
Sorry. Jump in. Sorry,
well, I just wanted to, the interesting thing about the stand your ground laws, and let's take it a step further, it replaces a duty to retreat. And basically what the duty to retreat law is it makes you defensive. It puts the power to the criminal. If you have a duty, they're not going to retreat. But now it's my duty to retreat. So you're putting me in a position that I am a victim already before anything else happens. So what stand the ground really is great is it allows you to protect yourself and not have to retreat from someone who doesn't care about that law.
Well, great way to say it, and I wish every lawmaker who is against stand your ground could hear you say those words right there. That was amazing.
Hey, I just heard it.
I was just going to say, Ghost, you hit the nail on the head. You know why? Because laws apply to law-abiding people. Do you think the criminals care? Nope.
No, in fact, if criminals were the only people that voted, we wouldn't have any gun freedoms. Because they don't care about the law, they're going to go ahead and have their guns. But if they could take them away from everybody who's law abiding, their job gets a lot easier.
Yeah.
Job being committing crimes. I mean, obviously, crime doesn't pay, but sometimes it actually does. And those people keep pushing their luck and keep committing those crimes, and until they run into somebody who can decisively say no more, they just keep committing those crimes. Okay, so getting back to the topic of the de-escalation, because we've got a few new voices in here now. So what are some great ways to try and de-escalate? Or maybe we're not to the point where we have stand your ground. We're in a state that we still legally are required to try and escape. So it's good to know some techniques. It's good to know some ways to try and, if not run away physically, at least get out of a jam without using our firearm. So does any of you that just joined, Rob or Ghost, do you have anything you want to add in there as far as actual ways to try and talk somebody down or get out of a tight spot?
So I'm gonna let Ghost go, but I'll jump in here.
Sure.
My state is one of the states where basically you have to try to get away or retreat if possible. So that obviously makes defense more challenging than in some areas. But I would say, on a day-to-day, it's not uncommon for people to flip out or flip you off, try to cut you off in line at the store, double park in front of you while you're staring right at them like, hey, and then they just get out of the car and walk away. Like, this stuff happens quite often here. And I'll be honest, I struggle not saying something sometimes. But when things do come up, I really couldn't tell you the perfect words to state, but I usually try to point out, like, I don't know. I guess that's not a good example. So, I was gonna, yeah, usually it's a back and forth a little bit, but try to make the point that I'd really just rather just get out of here or whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? So I try not to. It's not worth my time, even if I'm right, to have to discuss it and end up in jail for stupidity half the time with some of the stuff I see. So hopefully Ghost has a better answer for you, but I would just say it depends on the situation and the person you're dealing with. Sometimes people are just straight unreasonable. In that case, I would just try to, hopefully other people are watching so you have a witness if you do get attacked and have to defend yourself. But try to get distance. And, to me, that's, depending on the situation, the best thing is just try to gain more distance. Distance and witnesses. So if it does go bad, at least, hopefully everybody doesn't leave and leave you stuck there getting pulled out in cuffs later. So,
hey Rob, you actually live in New York City, or where do you live up there, bub?
No, I'm like central New York, so we're allowed, if you hop through all the hoops and everything, you can get a pistol permit. But you are still your duty to retreat. Basically,
no, I didn't know if you lived in New York, big city, or where you live, because there's a lot of little cities like mine in Ohio and New York. I was just curious. But I know New York laws are, yeah.
Yeah, and still an urban area. There's a lot of drugs, a lot of crime. They moved out the handicapped people for drug rehab, I think, because the state gets more money for it. So basically, things were bad, and now things have just gotten even worse in our area to the point where you hear sirens pretty much nonstop. There's two dead bodies were found, I think, last week. So things, it's all the time around here. So probably a higher risk of altercations. And here, an old lady will curse you out and threaten to kill you if you look at her wrong sometimes. So, but not everybody. Don't get me wrong. But
what you said? An old lady?
Good percentage of people that are wacko.
An old lady. Speaking of which,
We
I live in
see people
Ohio.
screaming, fighting in the streets, kicking cars. Just the other day, I almost got video of it. I was in
Did
somebody's
one of them
show
blow
and
their
I tried
horn
to
and
run
say,
down and get
"Look, I'm
video.
driving here"?
Well, they get upset about something, just run out the house and start kicking cars in the street. And what
Wow.
are you supposed to do? They're kicking brand new cars. It's
That
amazing.
tells
Man.
me people in New York have other issues that are
Oh yeah, there's a lot of
weighing on
issues.
their
Not only
mind.
that, but they are not afraid of somebody pulling a gun out of that car and leveling at them
No,
because
they'll yell
they're
and
assuming
scream.
that you're a law-abiding citizen in that car and you
Pretty
don't have a
much.
gun.
Not many people legally carry guns here, so people are real quick to jump in your face about anything. I mean, literally anything. So there was people close to me where older gentleman, 70 years old, and his 40-year-old daughter were getting out of a vehicle. The guy said hello to a group of teenagers that were all girls, and they ended up beating a guy. He was hospitalized, almost died, and beat the girl pretty well to the hospitalization.
Okay, what's wrong with this
is our
picture?
area.
Wow.
What's wrong with this picture? Oh my God.
Yeah, it's pretty
people.
crazy. I mean, just because the guy said hi. I mean, this is, some people are unreasonable. That's what I mean. If you try to negotiate out of every little thing, depending where you are, you might end up being a victim. So
Yeah, it's a very good point, because sometimes there are no magic words, right? Sometimes you don't have that other choice of de-escalating. Sometimes it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Then you gotta-
Unfortunately, and it,
Honestly-
you would rather it's not that way, but they're coming
Sure.
at you either way. So
Rob makes a great point. It depends on where you're at. Now, in our little society, no matter where we live, where Rob lives, I don't want to live there. My God, people, what? Okay. In other words, where we live in our society, we're polite. We do this, we do that. You get into certain societies, you could try and be as polite as you want, and you're going to get pummeled.
Mhm.
So,
Yep,
you know,
absolutely.
the whole de-escalation thing, when you look at it, it's like, yes, you want to de-escalate it and just go, okay, I'd rather not, but you might not have a choice.
Yep. All right, Ghost, do you have anything you want to throw in there as far as the actual de-escalation side of things?
I mean, this is probably not going to be the most popular answer, and I don't care.
That's
if
okay.
people
Bring it on.
Yell at me or not. I don't care. Run. Get the hell away. I mean, honestly, the best way to de-escalate is remove yourself from that situation. There's also something that you can remember, as there are other means of protecting yourself that are not lethal. Pepper spray, a flashlight. If someone's in your face and you shine a bright ass flashlight in their eyes, they're going to look away for a second. That gives you time to leave. Once again, it comes down to, do you want to be the Billy Bad Bro, or do you want to live to see another day with your family? And it might sound wimpy, and you can call me wimpy all you want. I really don't care, but I'm going to try to get out of that situation if at all possible.
Well, and that's ultimately what I want to try and convey tonight overall is, yeah, we were told one thing as we were growing up, and no matter who taught us how to be a man, I think for the most part, we all learned that, being a wimp is bad and being tough is good, right? But I'm here to tell you that especially if you're armed with a firearm, or if you're armed with knowledge on how to defend yourself with your hands and your feet, whatever it is, being thought a wimp and staying out of jail and not shooting somebody, I'll take that every day of the week over having to pull a trigger. I really will. And
absolutely.
I think that takes a special level of toughness. I think that it's just like a man crying in public. A man that's willing to cry in public isn't necessarily a sissy. That might be the toughest SOB you ever laid eyes on, and he could care less what you think. And that's where we've all got to get. We've got to get to where we all care less what you think about our choices, because you weren't in that situation. We are. And if you're stuck in that situation and you're going to do something that seems wimpy, now I'm not talking about, if you've got your spouse or your kid or somebody else with you that, you know, you throw your daughter physically between you and the threat, yeah, that's wimpy. Okay. And sometimes the duty to retreat isn't always an option if it's not just you. If you've got, you know, your wife and kids, and you can't get everybody to safety, then again, your options get limited real quick, right? There are so many scenarios that can play into this, but if you have a chance to lose face instead of shoot somebody, and as concealed carriers, we know we're going to shoot to end the threat, that usually means that somebody's going to die. Not always, and Lord willing, the threat ends without loss of life, or they can be, you know, patched up in a hospital or whatever. But the option is very real that a life may be taken, and if you can avoid that, isn't it worth it being thought to be a sissy when you yourself have the peace of mind knowing better? You know you're not a sissy. You know you made the best choice. World be damned. Who cares what they think, right?
I'm going to say this, brother. I'm going to say this. We mentioned it earlier. Protecting my butt, yeah, I'll de-escalate and get out of it, or what. Protecting family, loved ones, friends, whatever. You try to de-escalate. But if it comes down to it, I'll get away from it on my personal level. Like, yeah, you know, I don't need this. But if it comes down to protecting loved ones, I don't care. It goes out the window. You know what I mean?
I think that we're all going to put that scenario in a different light. I mean, I can handle myself with anybody, but I also know that is stuff that I know, there's always someone out there that's bigger, badder, whatever. But when it comes down to it, like I said, I would rather go fisticuffs with somebody and get my tail whipped and live another day than have to worry about what's going to happen to myself or my family if I pull that trigger. Now, if they come at me with a deadly weapon and my life or my family's life is threatened, I have absolutely zero problem drawing and pulling that trigger. But we go back to the whole responsibility side again, is we have to understand what a deadly threat is. The society that we live in doesn't always mean it's a deadly threat. Getting your tail whooped is not a deadly threat. It's not imminent danger. If you're being threatened by a weapon of some sort, or your family is, by all means, do what you got to do. But sometimes the right decision is the hardest decision to make, and that's to do nothing or to be prepared to get your tail whipped. And that's okay. That's not being a wimp. That's being smart.
And sometimes life just hands you the butt whipping, right? It's
I've had
unavoidable
my
at
butt
times.
whipped many times. It's going to happen again. Well, I'm not too old now. Hopefully I'm not too many fights at my age. But when I was younger, yeah, I was been in a ton of fights. I've had my butt whipped. And it's okay. I've lived on. It doesn't change. You have to be relatively confident in yourself to know that regardless if I win or lose a fight, that doesn't change who I am, you know?
Problem at my age, Ghost, is I'm getting to the point. I got osteoarthritis and some other problems. I can't.
Yeah, but you're old as hell, man.
Yeah, shut up. I can't strap like I used to. Like I said, I was in the martial arts and all that. Oh yeah, that's great. And I used to do this, dude. I cannot physically do. So to me, the gun's the equalizer. And honestly, I probably could do some of the things I used to do, but afterwards, I'd be going. Even I didn't get my butt kicked, I'd be telling the EMTs to take me to the hospital because I'm in pain. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, there's no shame in walking away from a fight to not get a broken hip, AA. So I get it.
I just like to put a little warning out there that, you know, a simple fight can get ugly pretty quick too. So I'm not saying you should discourage from it, but I know from yeah, I was a juvenile. It doesn't matter. But I ended up getting in a fight, and the kid's back got broken, and he had to be airlifted. And he can walk now, from what I've heard. But that was not my intention at all. but that's what happened. So, things can happen.
And not to
things
make
can
light
happen,
of that, not to make
So-
light of that, but people can carry tridents apparently in fights. So Anchorman can prove that it can escalate quickly.
Yeah. So I would just, I don't.
Well, in some states,
I'm sure that's a
nunchucks are
joke,
legal.
but I'm just stating,
Well, nunchucks are
you
legal
may
here, and I
not
can still
realize
swing
what
the
you're
crap out
doing
of
as
it.
you're doing it. So,
That's good point, New
try
York
to
Outcast.
avoid it if you can.
Very good point. And to get off on a side tangent just a little bit. When it comes to even just fighting, because we all know that one person, or maybe more than one person, that's always talking tough, and they've been in all these fights or whatever. And if anybody starts something with me, I don't need a gun, just there's going to be 2 hits. I'm going to hit them and they're going to hit the ground and, whatever. And to paraphrase the great Clint Smith, he's said that he doesn't care about professional sports or wrestling or any of that, but he has an appreciation for UFC and MMA fighting, not because he cares anything about the fighting part, but because it has gone a long way to being an example when he says, if you're going to get into a fist fight and you think you're going to end it with 1 hit, no, you're not. And you're going to be rolling around down in the mud with somebody, and after 30 seconds, you're going to be out of gas. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to end the way you think unless, look at the UFC fighters. They are in peak physical condition, and they go, 2-3 minutes in a round, and some of them can't even get through a round before they're completely gassed. And these are the people that are in the best shape of their life. I don't know about everybody on the panel or out in the chat, but I can tell you right now, the shape that I'm in is called round. And if those guys can only go half a minute to a minute rolling around in the dirt, then I've got 5 to 10 seconds before I'm out of gas. So that all comes into play, right? There's a distinct difference in knowing your limitations too. So know what you can do, know what you can't do. Every situation's obviously going to be different, because if you're alone versus if you're with one person, or if you're with your whole family, or whatever is the case, the way that you handle yourself is going to be fluid, right? It's going to change with the situation. But just understand that anybody that thinks they really are, Billy BA out there, that's super tough guy, if those guys that get paid to wrestle in an octagon for a living, and that's where they make their money, if they can't go more than a couple minutes straight without taking a break, what makes you think you can? So it's not really pertains to the topic tonight, but made me think of what Clint always says. That's the best part about UFC, is it really does show people the truth about what it's like to roll around in the dirt with somebody. You're not going to be able to do that very long. You better have a plan to end that fight quick, or stay out of it.
I was going to say the same thing, man. You watch them guys; they're athletes, and I said I studied the martial arts when I was young, and this and that. And the one thing that I hope comes back is brain and muscle memory. That if I ever do get in a confrontation, I remember the good moves that stop something, and if they do, it doesn't matter. I'm still going to get my butt kicked. Those guys
remember this. If you ever, if you're ever in a fight, remember one thing: there are no rules. There's nothing that says that you can't kick someone in the groin, you can't gouge their eyes, you can't throat punch them. I promise you, if you hit someone in the bridge of the nose or you throat punch them, they're gonna be hurt. I guarantee it.
Hey, Ghost, how about the knee crush? Crush the knee.
Sweep the leg. Sweep the leg.
No, it's not. No, sweeping the legs just not.
Okay, Daniel.
I'm just Karate Kid, man. I don't even know what the hell I'm talking about.
No, when
Duke, you had something you were going to say there.
Kick. Okay.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a plan until they get hit in the nose.
Exactly. Wasn't that what Mike Tyson said? Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Well, I mean, I can't even think after getting punched in the face by him, but yeah.
Yeah, well, even at his old age, he'd still punch me and it'd hurt.
Oh yeah.
Just find something to ram their head into.
Just watch your ears, guys. Watch your ears.
Oh yeah. Oh,
he's gonna eat your children. Yep.
Mikey likes the taste of ears.
Yeah, there's not enough money in the world to get me to get in the ring with Tyson. So
Shoot, I would. I'd jump in there, run
Sorry, not
around
sorry.
like an idiot, let them knock me out, and collect that payday, boy.
Well, if all I got was a concussion out of the deal, fine. But I want to get out of the ring with every bit of my body that I got in there with, other than some blood and sweat, maybe.
Oh, okay.
I'd probably, who am I
You
kidding?
won't
I'd pee
remember
myself.
anything. Don't worry about it.
It's right. I'd pee myself. It would be embarrassing.
So would you get in there with Lucille? You know, Lucille barbed wire wrap bat and
Lucille
face
Ball?
Oh,
Lucille from Walking Dead.
Lucille.
No.
Lucille, yes, the Lucille.
No, that's not sportsmanlike. All right. I think we're going to wrap it up. Does anybody have anything else they want to throw out there as far as de-escalation or trying to get out of a situation before you get into a situation? We've talked about the situational awareness. We've talked about the concealed carry mindset as far as being able to even pull that trigger. But again, like I said, we haven't had that many discussions. I haven't been in that many, and I haven't found that many online discussions of how to go from, up here down to here, with everybody's emotions and everything else, and just everybody just calm down and back away. So that is something that is very real. It doesn't make you less of a man. In fact, if you're willing to do that in the sake of, preventing a shooting, and think of it this way, you're probably saving the other person's life, right? So in that sense, it seems pretty noble. It doesn't seem to be unmanly at all. Does anybody else have anything else they want to throw out there before we start to make our final comments and channel plugs and whatnot and wrap it up?
I got one little thing.
Go for it.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I want to say we've been talking about de-escalation. We've been talking about situational awareness. You said something earlier about people carrying. You don't know who's carrying a gun. You also don't know, this day and age, let's be real, you don't know who's a freaking whack job in the room.
Mm-hmm.
So assume there's one or two in the room and carry yourself accordingly is what I would say.
That makes me think a comment that I forgot to mention out there in the chat. Patriot in the Dark had said, and I lost the comment. It's moved on, but Patriot had said something about act like you're nuts and just have a conversation with all the invisible people around, trying to convince them not to kick the dude's butt. And that was pretty good advice, I thought, if they think you're nuts. I also had a guy one time tell me that he's never been in a fist fight. If it ever starts, the first thing he does is shuck off his britches and stand there in his underwear. And nobody wants to fight a man in his underwear. So he's always gotten out of fights that way, which is bizarre, but whatever works. Whatever works.
All the time.
Okay, that's on the bizarre. What the?
But it's true. I don't want to, dude takes his pants off and puts
That
his
is
dukes
true.
up. Like, I don't want to
Most
mix it up
people
with the dude in his
wouldn't
tidy
want anything to
whities.
do with that.
That's actually a
I would say
I was
right
just gonna
now,
say,
we-
most people see that and just kick the guy in his nards and what?
say right now we all have a pretty easy excuse. You just got to start coughing and say you just got back from Italy and are on your way to the hospital.
Oh, God.
I'm pretty sure everybody's gonna leave you alone.
There
I
you
haven't
go.
felt good since I got back from China.
Yeah.
Want to share a Kleenex?
Nice. All right. Anybody else have anything they want to kick in there?
Yeah, something quick. Something.
Go ahead, Pat.
Used to race back in the day, and some of you guys may know that sometimes after pit stuff, after a race can get a little hairy down there. Went and won the race. Was running second, and guy blew a tire on the very last lap. He running this exact same line. He comes down, hits us. Okay, whatever. We win the race. We get in the pits. And when I always went to the racetrack, I always had a firearm in the truck. Just in case, late at night, if you have a breakdown, whatever. Anyway, I go over to the guys that blew the tire and got second behind us, and I go to tell them, hey, sorry for your bad luck, and he starts accusing, and these guys are big, and I'm only like 5'11", like 145, and these guys are like 200, and the other guy's 250. And I just go over there to tell them, good race, and they almost had me pinned up clear back on their trailer at that time. And I was like, okay, I'm about ready to get my butt kicked. Do I just sit here and let them vent it out and get everything off of their chest that they need to? Or do I just run back to the truck and just wait if something bad happens? And I was like, no, I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to wait until they vent it out, until I can get a word in. And they wouldn't hardly let me get a word in, but I just kept thinking, because my truck's only 15 feet away. And I was like, no, I'm just going to let them vent it out. And finally, I turned, I walked away, and the one guy went to grab for me. And that's kind of when I accelerated, and I just turned around, and I was like, okay, and he backed off. But later, this was kind of a turnaround. He came back over, and just because I blew him off and just was like, okay, whatever, I'm just walking away. He went back, looked at the video, and he was like, he actually came back over and apologized. So I think there's something to be said for situations kind of like that, or in that realm. Just if somebody's got a beef with you, just let them vent it out. Just let them blow the steam off, and then just walk away.
Just remember, it's not what they call you; it's what you answer to that matters.
Well, my point is this: is something, you did the right thing. You let them vent. They didn't strike you. They didn't get physical. They did not try to harm you. I know you were going, okay, should I retreat and get? Which mine's on me all the time, but I get what you're saying about, yeah, let them vent, let them, and at the end of the situation, everybody done arguing their point, and can we walk away and nobody got harmed?
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's what kept running through my mind. It's like, do I just run now back to my truck? And usually I'm always carrying, but I was still in my fire suit. So I didn't, I can't carry the gun in my race car or anything like that.
Well, why not? I would, but that's just me.
Well, I think there's actually something in the liability clause that you have to sign, that there is no firearms or booze or anything like that in your race car. I think, if I remember right.
If you mount the machine guns on the fenders, you could have the death race, right? So.
Well,
yeah.
I kind of like that at times.
All right. Well, we are going to wrap things up here. So we'll let everybody have some final thoughts and any channel plugs or anything they want to do. So we will just start here on my screen. I've got Zach first. So Zach, we're going to let you say goodnight. Anything you want to add before we go? Now is the time, and thanks for being here with us.
Yeah, you guys still hear me? I don't have my headset on.
You're good. You're good.
Yeah, I think tuck tail and run. I think that's the best option. I mean, I know I always look for a place, even walking into Walmart, I always look, see which aisle's the clear aisle in case something goes down. I mean, especially living alongside the interstate. It's, I don't know. It's scary, the world we live in now. We have to worry about these things, and laws don't protect guys like us that live by the law and follow the rules. The laws protect the guys that don't care. So yeah,
That's
I mean,
right.
I think tuck and tail and running is if you have that choice, I think that's the only way to go. I mean, I may sound like a sissy, but I'd rather get out of there. I want to go home and see my wife and kids,
Absolutely.
That's just my opinion.
And for those of you who don't know, Zach is a saddle maker out in the one of the original cow towns, Ogallala, Nebraska. So this is the cowboy mentality too that we've got to get around. It is it goes back to the title of this show. A good fight is better. A good run is better than a bad fight almost any day. So I know it does. It sometimes it rubs us the wrong way, but getting home to see your wife and kids, isn't that what it should all be about? Not being right, not being the tougher guy always or whatever, especially when it comes to, when you mix a firearm in there, everything changes. And like I said, if you back down, yeah, you probably saved a life. So
Yeah,
good.
I mean, I learned quite a bit, at our firearms hearing on the 21st of February. When all the anti-gunners showed up there, I thought, wow, this is. I thought there was going to be a lot more of them than there was. So I was mentally preparing myself, on a 4-hour trip to Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
I was preparing myself. I've seen videos of it. I was expecting the Antifa crowd and stuff like that. And, when that actually happened and they started calling us the names they were calling us, I was like, oh, man, what do we do? I've got 400 people behind me. There is no way out of this building. And, it ended pretty good. But it is just easier to keep your mouth shut sometimes and soak in. I mean, I think what they do, the pictures and the videos I've got, all of us Second Amendment supporters stood there with our mouths shut, and, the anti-gunners were blasting off at the mouth, flipping us off, calling us all sorts of names. It was kind of neat. I mean, just to show our professionalism and how unprofessional they were. Yeah, that's just my opinion, though.
Yeah, it also kind of shows maturity. They're sitting there whining, crying, making a scene, and you guys are standing strong and firm, so not taking the bait. So that's good. I'm glad you made it out to an event and weren't intimidated away.
And it really went pretty smoothly overall in Lincoln that day. So Zach, thanks for everything. Good stuff from you, and hopefully we'll get you involved here in weeks to come too. So
yeah,
all right,
stay tuned.
We will move over. Yeah, as soon as we get dates locked in, man, Zach is on the same committee that I'm on for planning the rally. There's a bunch of us that are involved with this rally coming up in Lincoln later this spring. Can't tell you when, but it will be sometime between Memorial Day and Independence Day. I can tell you that much, hopefully. But we're still working on getting some stuff done. It's not a fast process, it turns out. So once we know the dates, those will get locked in, and we can tell everybody what's happening, and I can keep you all updated as things happen in the planning. So, but that is still in the works. It is coming up, so stay tuned for more details. And Zach, thanks for all your help and everything that you're doing on that.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Yeah, you bet. We're going to move over to Ghost and let you have any final thoughts before we roll out.
Thanks for having me. Great conversation as always. Get out there and shoot. Be more proficient with your firearm. Take someone new to the range and provide them a safe, fun first experience. We all remember that first time we pulled trigger, the adrenaline rush. Let's provide that to someone who may be our enemy that may someday become our ally because we put them in a fun, safe environment. So get out there to the range, and appreciate you having me, Ben.
Yeah, you bet. And amen to what you said. All right, New York Outcast, thanks for coming in and offering some other perspective.
No problem. Thanks for allowing me in. I appreciate being able to have the opportunity. So all I would say is everybody have a great night. Be safe. Stay alert. Stay alive. So
absolutely. And before I forget, Blitz dropped a super chat out there. He says, "Stay safe, stay strapped, and stay sexy." So the first two apply to both of us in here. The sexy part, we all know he ain't talking about me. So I know that one is directed towards my lovely bride over here. And all of you sexy people out there that are in the panel and listening to, all of you stay sexy. All right. Defense Dad, thanks for coming in and hanging out with us again.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. It was a good chat tonight. What's that?
No, I was just saying, you bet.
Yeah, no, I think it went well. I like hearing everybody's opinions on it. Like I said earlier, the reality, the world's kind of nuts right now. You have no clue who's going to go off nuts on you. Which is partly the reason we all carry. But you also, about the de-escalation part of it, like, for example, I work in a place I'm not actually able to carry my gun during the day. So you can't always rely on that. So just be very aware of the people around you, and if at all possible, get away from that stuff. But other than that, yeah, I agree with take someone new to the range. I'm teaching my daughter to shoot. We're having a heck of a good time with it, and hope you guys all can too.
You bet. And those of you that have not yet, go over to Defense Dad on YouTube and check out his channel. He's got a unique perspective. He's learning how to become a gun guy and a gun dad at the same time. And I like the way that you're doing those videos over there. It's good stuff.
Thanks.
You bet. All right, Double A. Thanks for keeping it lively as always.
Oh, I try. You know me. I have a problem of shutting up, but I try to be, the chat etiquette. Thanks for having me, John.
Yeah,
I had fun hanging out with everybody on the panel. I know half of them, you know what I'm saying, but the point of views, very interesting talk. And talking about your duty to retreat or de-escalating, and Rob made a good point, man. Something where you live depends on how you're going to de-escalate, because you could be in a situation where you're trying to de-escalate and them people don't give a crap. They're still going to attack you. So yeah, it's a fine line, but I will revert back to the armed society, polite society. When everybody's armed, do you know who's got a gun? Do you know? And I'll tell you this, don't get in a knife fight. Man, if you're going to get in a knife fight, you better have your gun out really quick, because, you're going to get cut.
Yep, bad. That's bad.
Yes. But anyway, thanks for having me, man. Check me out on YouTube, our channel on YouTube. I think I'm on Twitter, and it doesn't matter. But anyway, man, it doesn't matter.
Thanks for being here. All righty, Travis. Thanks for coming in here and hanging out again.
Yeah, no problem, man. This is a great topic. We make a lot of Pro 2A videos and gun this and gun that video, but it is important to remember that walking away is sometimes the better choice. You got to think about those long-term ramifications. Great topic. And everybody watching here this evening, subscribe to everybody on the channel. If they got content, it's definitely worth checking out. So thanks for the invite, man. I appreciate it.
You betcha. Thanks for being here. All right, Duke Liberty.
Is that you, John Wayne? Is this me? Thanks, man. Really appreciate it.
Full Metal
Have a good night.
Thanks for coming and hanging out with us. All right. Last but certainly not least, we've got Pat Hirsch over there in the corner on my screen.
Thanks for having me on again. There's definitely a good conversation tonight. Definitely different points of views. Really liked it. And I guess if there's one little plug I have to put out there, it's definitely go check out Defense Dad. He's got a shotgun video with some of the kind of budget stuff that he put on there. Anyway, I won't spoil it anymore, but really liked it. And I'll definitely be getting one of those pieces of equipment for mine since he brought it up. And just everybody keep your head on a swivel and carry your gun.
You betcha. You betcha. All right. And then we had a lively chat. We had some new faces and new names out there this week, and a few that are not new anymore, but we haven't seen you too much. So it's always good to see all the usual suspects and also some new faces and new names out there as well in the chat. So again, if you were watching and you didn't comment, we didn't know you were watching, and so we don't get to say your name or say hi to you. But tonight on the list, we had Kingpin, Jay Brown, Double A, Carvings by Levi, Gun Loving Grandpa, Morlock, 10X Shooters, Blitz. Again, Blitz, thanks for that super chat. We appreciate you. G23, SS Pawn, New York Outcast, Ghost Tactical, Schofield 63, Midnight Range TM, George Washington, Sean Callanan, Patriot in the Dark, Ohio 45 ACP, Travis P11, Seven Wonders, Blue Steel 44, Justin Gibbons, Tim Donahue. Didn't see you before, but I know that Tim came over from the Facebook side and joined us. So as so many of you have, I love seeing the cross-pollination. They say it can't be done, but we prove them wrong every week. So Tim, thanks for being here, and we hope you join us every week moving forward. Mystic Guns, M. Gabriel, Jorge Cortez, Kinky Sphincter, The Poor Conservative, Mike, Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, Ozzy Osbourne, Consolidated 1776, Guy That Comments, Idaho Rogers USMC, Net Flutter, and Defense Dad. Whew, it's a big list. So on behalf of Zach and Ghost and New York Outcast, Defense Dad, AA, Travis, Duke, Pat, Sandhills Sweetheart, and myself, thank you to everybody that was watching. We love you. We don't have a channel. We don't have a Facebook page without your support. So thanks for doing this. Please share the link to the video with everybody. I would love to see this get to where we've got a few hundred people every week watching. That'd be cool. If it gets bigger than that, even better. But I love the fact that there's more and more people supporting us all the time, and that we're growing, and that there's actually people out there that give a crap what I have to say and think that my rantings make some sense. So I think they make great sense, but not everybody would necessarily think that. So, hey, Tim's out there with a super chat. He says he'll try. Thanks for what we're doing. Thanks for making it possible. It doesn't do any good if we just come in here and talk to ourselves. So without everybody out there in that chat and all of you listening live and all of you listening on the replay, it doesn't make any difference without you. It doesn't go anywhere. So thanks for giving it legs. We appreciate you. On behalf of all of us, thanks for being here. Catch us next week. I think we're going to talk a little bit about the disparity between, how big Hollywood makes all these movies like The Hunger Games or Divergent or any of those where, we've got the big evil tyrannical government lording it over the little people, the citizens, telling them what to do. They're disarmed. They're more property than they are people. And those movies are always such a big hit. And the stars that make those movies turn around and say that we shouldn't have guns and that people shouldn't be able to defend themselves. So we're going to talk about that a little bit and just list some of the great movies and talk about all those and the people that make them and the dystopian future societies, as it were, in some of these movies, and how it's feasible down the road something like that could happen here if the wrong chain of events were to happen. So that's going to be next week. Check us out on Patreon. Become a patron if you want to. If you're not over on the Facebook side yet, but you have Facebook, go to facebook.com/sandhillshooter, like the page, and go check out all the fun memes and everything that I share. We actually have a meme that, and I didn't make it, but earlier today it got in front of the 3.5 millionth person, because the Facebook page, when you're an admin, you can track and see how many people have viewed a specific post. So a meme that I took and shared, and it's not even mine, at least 3.5 million people have seen that meme on my page. That's kind of cool. So we love you guys on Facebook. We love you guys on YouTube. Catch us next week, 9 o'clock Central Time, the only time zone that matters, Tuesday night, for the Get Off My Lawn podcast. And remember, get off my lawn.